Count Dooku is viewed as a heartless man by most Star Wars fans. Perhaps it's the noble air that surrounds him. Even when he was a Jedi, Dooku could be cold, elitist, and a bit arrogant. And when he left the Jedi and retook his family name, he would become the Count of Serrano. Then he would start campaigning for the Separatist Alliance. As the war went on and the bodies began to pile up, much of the blood spilt was blamed on one man, Dooku. The Jedi who once naively defended him now saw him as a force for evil, a Sith Lord that must be stopped no matter what the consequences were, even if it meant sending a Jedi assassin after him. But there was always another, perhaps not good, but not completely evil side to Count Dooku as well, one that is oftentimes overlooked. There are some that even theorize that Dooku's plan all along was to destroy Sidious and try to bring a bit of peace, his style, to the galaxy. But the place where you can clearly see Count Dooku's humanity is when he's actually talking about his former apprentice Qui-Gon Jinn. In today's video, we're going to take a look at whether Dooku actually had some feelings for his former apprentice. Qui-Gon Jinn is well known for championing the Chosen One prophecy. You know, the one that goes like this.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches.
This was the entire reason why he brought that sand-hating child murderer into the Sacred Jedi Temple in the first place. And he even tried to convince the entire Jedi Order that the future of the Force lay in this child's hands. But how did Qui-Gon Jinn get to this point in his career? He was probably one of the most powerful Jedi Masters to not sit on the High Council, despite being offered a position, and now he was looking into crystal balls and trying to predict the future. Well, like in most Jedi's cases, Qui-Gon Jinn picked up a lot of different things from his own master, Count Dooku. Jedi might not know their parents because they're split away from them at a young age, but their Jedi Masters basically fill in that role. They're also their teachers and guides, all rolled into one. And for a Jedi Master, having a child is out of the question, unless you're a potato-aligned species. And so, the Jedi Padawan becomes, in a sense, their first child. Now, Count Dooku, even as a Jedi Master, from all accounts, was not a very warm individual. He was actually quite stern, and a lot of the younger Padawans, including Qui-Gon Jinn, feared him. He was also known for being a master duelist as well. But it wasn't always like this. At one point in his life, Dooku was also a youngling and a Padawan. His friendship with another Jedi known as Sifo-Dyas would forever change his life's course. Sifo-Dyas is most famously known as the Jedi who made the initial purchase of the clone trooper army from the Kaminoans. But what actually drove him to making that purchase was that he was getting bombarded by terrible visions in the Force of a future war that the Jedi and the Republic clearly were not well prepared for. And actually, Sifo-Dyas had been experiencing these type of Force visions all throughout his childhood. On one occasion, Sifo-Dyas witnessed an entire planet in flames. This actually turned out to be a premonition about the great proto-branch solar storm that destroyed an entire agricultural planet. Now, Count Dooku witnessed Sifo-Dyas having these visions. He then witnessed the whole Jedi Council talking about these visions, and then he actually witnessed the disaster itself as well, so he clearly began to believe that these Force visions had some truth in them. Dooku would begin to immerse himself in the Jedi archives, and he also began to study many of the different Jedi prophecies which were placed in different holocrons. But because of his personality, because of who he was, he began to really fear what he saw in these prophecies. He feared the future, the death and destruction that awaited the entire galaxy. Before we continue today's episode, a word from our sponsor, Ownersaver.com. For the month of July, they're going to be giving away several lightsabers for free to lucky fans. In order to enter this competition, follow Ownersaver on Instagram, and on July 12th and July 19th, they'll post a link to a Google form link that will be active for 24 hours. Enter your details on this form and you will be entered into a raffle. On every date, 2 winners will be chosen and gifted a free lightsaber. The results of the contest will be posted 2 days after. Again, those dates are July 12th and July 19th, the next 2 Tuesdays of this month. Also, Ownersaver.com will be giving 30% off of all of their Xenopixel premium line of lightsabers like this guy right here. So if this sounds like a competition you guys want to enter in, please check out the description down below for more information. Thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. Now, by 68 BBY, Count Dooku was a full-blown Jedi Master and on his way to accepting his second apprentice, a young Qui-Gon Jinn. When Qui-Gon first meets the young Padawan, he senses fear in Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon Jinn responds that yes, he is afraid. This honesty and maturity really does impress Count Dooku right off the bat. Now, Count Dooku always had a relatively elitist view, even as a Jedi, and this was because he was an extremely skilled individual, and he was really good at everything he did, basically. At a young age, he actually won this Force Telekinesis contest that was designed for much older students. And by the time he was a Jedi Knight, he was already known for being one of the top duelists in the entire order. He was only second to perhaps Mace Windu and Yoda. Count Dooku was excellent at everything, so he didn't really have the patience for slower students. Fortunately, Qui-Gon Jinn was really good at almost everything he did as well, and so the two hit it off pretty well almost immediately. Now, Count Dooku would take Qui-Gon Jinn all throughout the Jedi Temple at first and basically explain him some history on the Jedi Temple. He'd also obviously add his own opinions on how he saw the Jedi Temple, all of their shortcomings and everything. On that first day, while going through the archives, Qui-Gon Jinn actually goes directly to an old holocron that holds several Jedi prophecies in it. And when Dooku sees Qui-Gon Jinn holding it, everything, like the mood changes. Qui-Gon Jinn remembers Count Dooku almost looking at him like he were some kind of threat or enemy. Now, that kind of darkness immediately fades away just moments later. What we saw here was another sign of that hidden fear that would one day consume Count Dooku. The Jedi Master would recover from this one awkward moment relatively quickly, and then he would go on to explain to Qui-Gon Jinn that the Jedi no longer looked at these prophecies because it oftentimes instilled fear into the individuals looking at it, and that could lead to the dark side. And Count Dooku knows what he's talking about because he was actually still looking at the holocrons probably, and that is what eventually would turn him to the dark side. He simply no longer accepted that the Jedi were capable enough to handle all of the turmoil that the galaxy was about to face. Now, in Legends, there are two things that really turn Count Dooku to the dark side. First, you have the Battle of Galadron. This is a battle in which Count Dooku was sent to confront Jango Fett and the true Mandalorians. Apparently, the whole conflict turned out to be a setup made by the Death Watch, who were looking to just destroy their rivals, using the Jedi to do it for them. And the second reason was the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. Basically, Count Dooku saw the Jedi leadership to be extremely dangerous and ineffective, and at this point they were just throwing Jedi lives left and right without really thinking. That was his opinion. The death of Qui-Gon Jinn only confirmed his beliefs. After all, when Qui-Gon Jinn dies, this was the second encounter the individual had with a Sith assassin. Qui-Gon Jinn had actually mentioned Darth Maul's existence to the Jedi Council, yet they didn't seem to think it would be a good idea to send a specifically trained task force to deal with this very dangerous individual. Remember, the Sith were the sworn enemies of the Jedi, and no one had seen any Sith in 1,000 years. But again, the Jedi didn't do anything. In the new canon lineup, however, Count Dooku has already left the Order by the time Qui-Gon Jinn died. But nonetheless, he was still incredibly saddened by the event. When he runs into Mr. Tiger Jedi on a routine mission for Palpatine, Dooku confides in the Jedi that he couldn't help but wonder what would have happened to his apprentice if he had still been a Jedi Order and was available to help him. Now, to be fair, Dooku was just trying to make the Tiger Jedi trust him. He was attempting to lure him into a false sense of complacency. But Count Dooku understands the important lesson about lying, and that's when you lie, you should oftentimes tell some partial truths in that lie to make it seem a lot more believable. When Count Dooku speaks to the captured Obi-Wan Kenobi on Geonosis, he also puts on a similar tone when talking about Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon always spoke very highly of you. I wish he were still alive. I could use his help right now.
Now, Count Dooku's speech here to Obi-Wan Kenobi was full of sarcasm and deceit, but once again, not everything he said was false. Palpatine was, in fact, the Sith Lord, and he did have many connections in the Senate. Qui-Gon Jinn also did speak very highly of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And perhaps Count Dooku really believed that Qui-Gon Jinn could have been useful at his side, either as an apprentice or simply to just help him decipher all of these Jedi prophecies. But on the other hand, Count Dooku was cold-hearted enough to kill his best friend Sifo Dyas once his usefulness ended. He was also cold-hearted enough to carry out many different massacres during the Clone Wars. So is Count Dooku genuinely sad about the death of Qui-Gon Jinn? I think it's definitely possible. In the recent Obi-Wan Kenobi novel, Brotherhood, Obi-Wan Kenobi runs into Count Dooku for the first time after their run-in on Geonosis. Count Dooku and Obi-Wan Kenobi have been fighting amongst each other with very passive-aggressive tones until Obi-Wan Kenobi mentions Qui-Gon Jinn, at which point Count Dooku's expression kind of softens. Which means that, yeah, I definitely think it's possible that Count Dooku has feelings for his former apprentice. There's a strong connection between every master and apprentice, even years after they stop being master and apprentice. Now, Count Dooku, as a Sith, probably saw it as Darth Maul's right to kill Qui-Gon Jinn because he was, in fact, stronger. Remember, rule of the jungle is what the Sith believe it. But at the same time, Count Dooku taught Qui-Gon Jinn, and he clearly was really, really proud of his accomplishments. If anything, Dooku was definitely shocked to see someone who he personally trained get cut down. The Count's massive ego allows him to take ownership of this incident as a personal failure. And so to summarize, I think it's definitely very likely that Count Dooku did love Qui-Gon Jinn, and he was saddened by the death of his apprentice. The Sith could have emotions, much more than the Jedi. Plus, Count Dooku had 3 different apprentices, and 2 of them went to the dark side, and 2 of them were far less impressive than Qui-Gon Jinn. At the same time, Count Dooku was an extremely driven individual, and his ultimate goal was bringing peace to the galaxy. And we've seen that he is extremely capable of doing very cruel things to get what he wants. Count Dooku ultimately becomes a Sith because he believes that the ends justify the means. This is probably why he's able to compartmentalize his love for Qui-Gon Jinn and so hold on to that. Well guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below about my assessment here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. My name is Alan, and my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,